A very good evening and Yali Madad to all of you. Thank you everyone for joining us for the second episode of our webinar series in collaboration with the Aga Khan Education Board for Canada. My name is Salman Khemani and I am the member of the Aga Khan Education Board for Pakistan. Very recently, we have started the series of study abroad in collaboration with various education boards. We had previously done a series of webinars in collaboration with the Aga Khan Education Board for Australia and New Zealand. And last week, we have started another series of career webinars in collaboration with Aga Khan Education Board for Pakistan, where we have colleagues from the board in Canada sharing their experiences about education opportunities in Canada. In the first episode last week, we had spoken about various undergraduate studies in Canada and possible funding opportunities for students who are there. In this episode, we would speak about the graduate studies opportunities in Canada and various funding pathways. I'm extremely pleased that today we have two eminent speakers and three current students who are currently pursuing graduate studies in Canada, and they will be sharing their experiences with all of us. Just to begin the session, I wanted to quickly share that there are three parts to the webinar today. In the first part, we will speak about the graduate studies pathways in Canada and what are some key areas that students need to be aware of while they are exploring studies in Canada. In part two, we have three excellent, exceptional students who are currently pursuing graduate studies in Canada and will speak to students about their experience of applying and studying in Canada. In the final part, we will explore about funding pathways for graduate studies and various scholarship and loan options that exist for studies in Canada. This session is being streamed on YouTube. Those who are attending the live session there can ask questions toward the end of the session. So let me now move on to introduce our first speaker today. Our first speaker today is Ms. Khadija Jetha. Khadija has worked in international student recruitment for more than 12 years at the University of Alberta with a focus on Middle East and Africa. Khadija is passionate about Canadian education and has met extensively with students and parents around the world, advising on study abroad options and speaking in keynote sessions at various international education fairs. Khadija completed the International Baccalaureate program in high school and is a proud alumni of University of Alberta, holding a Bachelor of Arts in International Politics and Linguistics. Khadija was an English teacher in Japan for 2 years and has also completed an archaeology field school in Ecuador. She is fluent in 7 languages, enjoys travel, Latin dance, ball hockey, and singing. On the voluntary side, Khadija is serving her 3rd term as the AKEBP member for post-secondary in Edmonton, Alberta, and she was previously an Smiley volunteer, a Bethlehem teacher, and Daiban Jubilee local Intezar program coach. Khadija, thank you for joining us once again. You were there you were brilliant last week as well, and I request you to please take it from here.
Thank you very much for that wonderful and warm introduction, Salman. And a very, very warm welcome to you all joining us today for our second webinar on the series that is being hosted by the Aga Khan Education Board for Pakistan in collaboration with the Aga Khan Education Board for Canada. So the first portion of the presentation, I'm going to just do a little bit of an overview of postgraduate studies, the Canadian education system, how to choose the right course, typical admission requirements and the application process. And then we will move on to some student testimonials and then talk a little bit about funding. So I'm just going to take it away. Again, if you are interested or in asking any questions, or if you have any questions, please make sure that you ask them in the YouTube chat, and we will do our best to answer as many as possible in the later portion of this session. So for those of you that are not so familiar about Canada, obviously this series is about studying in Canada. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview. Canada, of course, is a large country geographically, but Only 37.5 million people, so a smaller population than Pakistan even. We have 6 distinct time zones and 4 distinct seasons. So definitely in Canada, you will at some point in your life experience snow and cold. There are 10 provinces and 3 territories. The majority of the population, including the majority of the Ismaili Jamaat, live in the major cities, sort of close to the American border. We are an officially bilingual country. English is spoken as the majority language in most of Canada. However, in Quebec and in parts of New Brunswick, French is the majority language. So definitely a bilingual country, but over 200 mother languages are spoken here. Very multicultural, welcoming, diverse place. Over 640,000 international students at the undergraduate and postgraduate level. Pakistan is a relevant source country for that. And we are seeing an increase in interest from international students. We've seen, a 3-fold increase in the last decade of international student traffic to Canada. And we're looking at, over $148 million of investment from the federal government to actually broaden study in Canada and student enrollment in Canada. So this is a very welcoming, very, crucial environment that demonstrates that Canada is open and welcoming to international students. So a little bit about Canada. Of course, I mentioned we are a bilingual country. 1 in 6 Canadians was born outside of the country. So again, very multicultural, welcoming population. We are a winter country, so if you know nothing about ice hockey, chances are at some point you will become obsessed living in Canada like the rest of us. And a little cross-section of famous Canadians here. Maybe some of them you do recognize, maybe some of them are new to you. And of course, the iconic red Tim Hortons coffee cup. This is something as a student drinking coffee on campus during those late nights, you will definitely become familiar with Tim Hortons. So as you can see, Canada across the country, no matter where you're choosing to settle, where you're choosing to, pursue your studies, whether it is a large major urban city, whether it is a smaller, mid-sized, university or college town, whether you want to be close to nature, close to the mountains, close to the ocean, there are many, many different beautiful options. And no matter where you are in Canada, you're never too far away from an escape to beautiful nature. So just a little bit of a review of our post-secondary system. In Canada, we have, at least 96 universities and over 125 colleges, including polytechnic and vocational or technical colleges. 90% of institutions, post-secondary institutions in Canada are publicly funded. What does that mean? That means we are funded by the federal government. The federal government will provide basic funding as well as the provincial governments to supplement the cost and to offset the cost of education. So again, no matter where you're choosing in Canada, across the board, especially if you're looking at a university for a full master's, or postdoctoral degree, you will be getting a quality education. You will be in a quality institution across the board. That consistency is there. So majority of you in terms of postgraduate studies will be looking at a university. Universities will offer the 4-year bachelor degree, and then you can go on to a 2-year course-based or thesis-based master's degree, or up to 4 years in a PhD. For those of you looking to do post-bachelor's certificate, or for example, a postgraduate diploma or certificate, that is a possible route as well. Most of those are offered by, again, colleges or university colleges or technical training institutes. these will determine sort of what the structure of your postgraduate studies look like, will determine the format. For students who are interested in the timeline, majority of full-time degree or diploma or certificate programs will begin usually in the fall term, which is typically September to December, and the winter term usually runs January to April in Canada. There is normally a spring and a summer semester, but they are usually condensed. And if you are doing a thesis-based or research-based graduate degree, generally you are studying or doing your lab work or your research work throughout the year. Of course, colleges, polytechnics will offer a different type of credential. Again, if you're looking at a course-based versus a thesis-based master's, you will have a different amount of coursework that you will need to complete. You may have different guidelines in terms of your thesis project or capstone project. You may be taking a different number of credits. Recall that to be in full standing on a Canadian visa and study permit, you would need to take a minimum of 3 courses or 9 units of course weight to be in good standing and be considered full-time on your study permit. And the final point that I want to make is that make sure when you are looking for an institution that you are looking, for a publicly funded institution for the most part, and that it's a designated learning institution or a DLI. So if you're looking at private for-profit colleges, these may often be low quality. They may not, be on the same standard as publicly funded institutions. So we need to be careful there. The Canadian post-secondary system, you can choose an institution that can be, anywhere as intimate as only 1,000 students up to 75,000 students. So this is sort of the range of the type of schools that we have in our Canadian post-secondary system. And again, tuition costs can range as well. Normally at the postgraduate level, tuition funding is a little bit more readily available and is quite a bit more affordable and flexible than at the undergraduate level. Canada, of course, is a leader in work integrated learning. So even at the postgraduate level, even if you're doing research, even if you are doing, lab work, or if you're in a professional degree, for example, like an MBA or a master's in finance, you will for sure have opportunities to develop yourself professionally while you're in school, to get that professional work experience, to have that integrated into your learning. Definitely at the postgraduate level, at the master's, PhD, or professional level, you will be focusing your degree on a specific topic or a specific area of research interest. So as, interdisciplinary or flexible that it may be, at the postgraduate level, you are expected to definitely hone in on a specific or particular question or research area of interest. Lots of opportunities for exchange, for collaboration, for different types of professional programs. Again, certain professional degrees or second degrees may be graduate degrees in Canada. A lot of students who want to study physiotherapy, occupational therapy, rehabilitation medicine, for example, this is a master's level degree in most Canadian institutions. And definitely degrees like the MBA or degrees, for example, in health sciences like medicine, dentistry, these would be considered second degrees or professional degrees. So again, designated learning institutions are schools that can enroll international students and that have been approved to enroll international students by the Canadian government. So, to study in Canada, you will require a study permit. For the most part, your acceptance letter to any institution or any degree or diploma or certificate program will have a designated learning institution number, or will be actually, identified as a designated learning institution. So there's a way to make sure that your school is a DLI, that the school that you're applying to is a DLI. And please be wary of, third-party recruitment partners, agents, private recruitments, immigration consultants that may be advertising. Many of them need to be accredited and are not. So please make sure that you are going through the appropriate channels and using a properly vetted agent or third-party consultant that will steer you towards a recognized designated learning institution. So these processes are in place to make sure that, institutions are remaining high quality, that are, officially recognized. And, if you select a DLI, or making sure that you select a properly accredited designated learning institution, will make sure that the credential that you receive in Canada is properly recognized worldwide. So just a little bit of an information about what type of post-secondary institution or PSI is best for you. When you are looking at postgraduate studies, as a mature student, you want to look at the type of institution, you want to look at the type of research that is being put out by that institution. You also want to look at the professors and the faculty at that level. That is important. Again, do you want to be in a large city, a medium-sized town? Do you want to be in a smaller environment, which might accord you more professional opportunities? What about the presence or size of the Ismaili Jamaat in that particular town or in that particular city? Is there an on-campus Jamaat Khana? Is there an Ismaili Student Association? And a lot of times, graduate students, maybe have dependents, are maybe traveling with a spouse or a family. So living on campus, off campus, what type of options do you have? What type of commuting will be easy for you? Do you want to live off campus, but somewhere close to the campus so that you don't have to take the bus in the snow for an hour across town? What type of affordability and funding do you have? What does your budget look like? What are the employability or career trends of that specific field? And at the postgraduate level, that you're already going to be specifically, focusing on a certain area of interest. So hopefully you've done some exploration on what the career potential is for that. And also some questions to be asking yourself: how is this going to impact my life and the life of my family, the life of my community? How am I able to improve the quality of life of the Jamaat around me with this education? What are some non-academic features, right? So these are some of the questions that you should be asking. So just a little bit of an overview on graduate degrees. There are various types of postgraduate degrees. At the master's level, there are two main sort of types of degrees that are offered in Canada. There are thesis-based or course-based, and these are, professional or research-based degrees. So a thesis-based degree will often include coursework, plus some type of lab or research work, and you will be writing a thesis, which you will need to defend usually to a committee. A course-based degree will not usually have that same component of a thesis project or a thesis that you would defend. More often than not, a course-based master's will be more classwork heavy with a final project. Normally, master's degrees are anywhere from 1 to 2.5 years. Again, a master's level postgraduate certificate or diploma will likely only be 1 year, will likely not have that thesis or project or capstone sort of final project component. And to enter into any type of master's degree, obviously, a bachelor's degree is the minimum that would be required for entry. At the doctoral level, there are various types of doctoral degrees as well. The PhD or Doctor of Philosophy is your normally research intensive or thesis based. Normally, this is after you're completing coursework at the master's level. Normally, this will include coursework, some type of candidacy exam, and of course, a thesis defense. So you will have to defend your thesis project, your doctoral thesis. And normally it can be anywhere from 4 years up to 6 years at the postdoctoral or the PhD level. And again, you may have some direct entry programs into a PhD where you're fast-tracked or where you're bypassed, but at that level, the expectation is that you have a master's level credential. So a good way to begin, checking what type of program is aligned is making sure that you have the appropriate requirements and that those are being fulfilled. So normally for a postgraduate degree in Canada, they're looking at 3 different components. The first is a bachelor's or master's degree or an equivalent from a recognized institution around the world. So again, if you're applying from a bachelor's level or master's level degree at the, at those levels, from an institution in Pakistan or from an institution maybe in a different country, these must be recognized institutions. It must be a full bachelor's degree, sometimes a higher national diploma equivalent, or some type of college diploma or associate degree may not be sufficient. Again, most programs, to be competitive, you should be, in the 70-75% range. So about 3.0 out of 4.0 GPA, or a 7 out of 10, or a first class standing division. Normally competitive programs will look at your final 2 years of study or around your final 60 credits of study at the bachelor's level to determine your, grade eligibility and your results for entry. On top of your minimum requirements, as well as your minimum degree, you may be asked to write a standardized exam like the GMAT, the Graduate Master's Admissions Test, the Graduate Research Examination, the GRE. For law school, there's the Law School Admission Test, there's the DAT, the Dentistry Admission Test, etc. So there may be some type of standardized exam that you may need to submit a score for. Definitely for an MBA, usually a GMAT or a GRE score is asked for. And you will be asked for your English proficiency. So you will need to have a minimum, TOEFL score. Again, 90 is a good benchmark for the TOEFL. Around 6.5 is a good benchmark for academic IELTS. Some programs will ask you also for the test of spoken English. So for example, if you're going into a nursing or education master's where, you're going to be interacting with the public or dealing with patients or students, you may have to prove an appropriate level of spoken and communicated English as well. So some things to consider at the graduate level. Are you going to be asked to find a supervisor before you apply? So if you're applying to, a research intensive master's in, engineering and in computer engineering, will you have a supervisor assigned to you by the graduate coordinator in the department you're applying to? Will you need to write an exam? Is there only one start date for your program? So for example, is there only a September intake or fall intake, or is it rolling admissions where you can begin your program in the winter or begin your program in the spring? Do you require professional work experience? More often than not, highly competitive MBA programs or masters in accounting or finance will require for you to have a minimum of 2 to 3 years of professional experience. Same with certain course-based, engineering and science programs. A course-based civil and construction engineering management program will often require for you to have that professional experience. If you're going into a research intensive or thesis based, have you been published at the undergraduate level? Do you have experience with publications? Have you contributed to any type of advanced research that has been published? Are you required to formulate a research statement of intent? Will you be eligible for funding? Will you be eligible for teaching assistantships, tuition rebates? Is there a preliminary application form? So these are some things to keep in mind. Certain programs will ask you to fill out a preliminary application form even before you apply to that graduate program to see if you're eligible. And more often than not, required documents at the graduate level when you're applying will include a CV, so a curriculum vitae of some type of resume of your academic achievements, which would include, awards, publications, courses taken at that level. You will be required to submit your transcripts and copies of maybe your bachelor's degree certificate or credentials. You will often require to present the original copy or certified copy of the original document, as well as the English translation. And you may need a statement of research interest, a couple of references. These are important for thesis-based and also for professional programs. Having a couple of professional references or academic references will be an important component and may be required for application to some postgraduate programs. You may need confirmation from a supervisor. So you may not actually be cleared to apply to a program until you've identified a supervisor or a professor and have clearance from them. Some departments will have additional components. So just quickly, writing a statement of intent. If you are required to write some type of statement of research intent or some type of statement of purpose in order to connect with a potential supervisor or a potential graduate coordinator, make sure that it's 1 to 2 pages maximum, that you're not writing a novel. Why do you want to work with that professor? What is it about that professor's research that interests you? How is it related? How is your academic background beneficial to that research group that the professor is leading? What are your goals after you complete your graduate studies? If it's a master's program, do you want to go on to professional studies? Do you want to be a researcher? Do you want to go into academia? Make sure you're not just writing one general statement. If you're writing to Dr. Khan and you're writing to Dr. Abdul and you're writing to Dr. Muhammad, make sure that you are doing your research and that you're seeing what those professors' publications are, whether you're aligning with them, and it needs to be articulate. You need to articulate a clearly defined research idea in that statement. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily need to be a full concept at that point, but when you are required to write a research statement of interest, you need to make sure that you have a coherent or articulated research idea, and you should be able to explain that. After you are applying to a postgraduate program, make sure you're keeping in touch with the department. Your department is your primary source of information, especially for research or thesis-based programs, okay? They will assist you with documents. Every university will have an international student service center, which will assist you with whatever you need. They may nominate you, the department may nominate you for some type of entrance award, which would include, a tuition rebate, a teaching assistantship, a research assistantship, some type of scholarship. They will give you all of your orientation and welcoming, and your graduate coordinator is often your main point of contact and your first point of contact. So this is very important. Make sure you're connecting with your graduate coordinator. And after you have received your conditional admission, please make sure you start your visa and study permit process right away, especially at the graduate level, especially if you have dependents such as a spouse or children that will be traveling with you. Pakistan does have an SDS stream, and Pakistani visas for Canada, student visas are normally processed through the Canadian Embassy in the UAE in Abu Dhabi. So it gives you a little bit of an idea, and you can finalize your study permit once you receive your final admission, but make sure you're starting the process as early as possible with your conditional admission offer. So I know that I have definitely gone a little bit over time. I do apologize. That's a lot of information. Hopefully that was useful information. I've posted some resources here for you as well. Again, we will share this presentation with you. A lot of these resources will give you those good first steps and give you some ideas on how to look for funding, how to look for immigration pathways, what are the best types of institutions for you. If you have an international credential or a degree that you're not sure would be validated, you can check the Center for Credentials and the Canadian Bureau of International Education. So without further ado, I am going to hand the floor over to our first international student testimonial. We have 3 wonderful students here to share their experiences with us, and I will pass the floor to Shaista Megani, who is currently a PhD student at the University of Alberta, same place that I work, in the Faculty of Nursing. Please go ahead, Shaista.
Hi, everyone. This is Shaista Megani. Thank you very much, Khatija, for introduction. And I would really say that you have given a lot of information and everything is very clear and crisp. So basically, I'm a PhD student of nursing. I'm pursuing for a Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing from University of Alberta. And I'm also Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute studentship recipient. And currently I'm in my coursework and going to complete in December. And then I'm going to pursue for my research work. So basically, in the admission process, which is very simple in perspective to University of Alberta, everything is online, like the application process is online and it's very user-friendly. And all the requirements that Khatija has shared, it's almost the same. There are a couple of things which I would like to ponder on, and these are the things which are very crucial in applying for PhD programs, especially. Basically, I would say that the early the process, if you start your process early, you will get the results early, and then you will get the opportunity to apply for your fundings. Because basically the funding opportunities and the decisions made around these funding opportunities are usually happen in January, from January to March. So when I applied for the PhD program, I applied in November, and then after that I had a couple of time for looking for some funding opportunities and how to plan myself if I get the admission. The second thing which I would like to emphasize on is the selection of the supervisor, because in the PhD program, it is very important, and I would say it's fundamental to have that information and connection with your supervisor based on what your area of interest, research interest is. Because when you will be writing your intent and your form, the PhD application form, which requires certain informations like what are your career plans, what are your research plans. So in that perspective, you need to have collaboration and some kind of information and interest, the shared interest with your supervisors. So what I did was, I went to the university website, and on the university website, you will find a page where the faculty information and details are already there. And you can just scroll and see like what you first need to see that what your area of interest in the research and what is, your interest is, compatible with your supervisor. Then you have to approach the supervisor, obviously, because you have to write those details in your form as well. So if you have not approached your supervisor or your potential supervisor, I would say, then it would be difficult for you to write that information piece in your background form. So for that, you need to email your professor or whatever, the supervisor you would like to choose. And then with that email, you have to write your research interest and attach your CV so that the other person would know that what your intent is. Once you get that information and your supervisor is ready to take you as your potential student, then you have to write that information in the PhD form. So the next part which I would like to emphasize on is the PhD background form that you have to fill, as I've said earlier, that you need to include some of your information regarding your intent of your research, what are your program expectations, what are your career expectations. You have to write all these details, and these details are not just essay writing, it has to be basically based on your experiences and your academic achievements, because this essay will guide the registrar to review your application, your biodata and everything, and based on these things they will decide that whether the student is eligible for the program or not. So these are the two important things which I would like to emphasize. And I would say that I was struggling with this form because there were lots of things and experiences that you have to write in one form. So you need to be very clear about your ideas, and make sure when you write your essay, always get it checked with someone who is a neutral person or someone who is good at English, or can edit your paper. So it will be easy for you to, have another eye to cross-check your things, and then you can submit it. So I think these are the two things important for the admission criteria. Rest of the things I've already explained by Khatija, like what are the documents that you would be requiring. And I would say that wish you all the best for your academic journey later. And I would say that I would ask Azra to share her experience now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shaista. I will pass the floor along to Azra Lakhani, who is currently pursuing her Master's of Public Health and is also a student with an interesting experience on how to approach postgraduate studies. Take it away, Azra.
Thank you so much, Khatija, and thanks so much, Shaista, for sharing your experiences. Yali Madad, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share this platform and my experiences with all of you great people. So my name is Azra, and I am tuning in from London, Ontario. I'm originally from Hyderabad, India, where I completed my high school from the Aga Khan Academy. And that really paved my way to come to Canada. And I came to Canada in 2014 after high school to pursue Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry and Psychology from University of Victoria, which is in British Columbia. I then moved to Vancouver to work at a biotechnology company in cancer research for about 2 years as a senior quality control analyst in microbiology. So that was the quickest background about me. Moving to the present, I am currently pursuing a master's in public health at Western University, which is on the east of Canada. And this is where I am right now. So to give you an understanding of public health, it is an approach to medicine that is concerned with the health of the community as a whole, not an individual. So if you're interested in pursuing a career in public health, then a master in public health may be the next best step for you. But if you're still exploring, I would recommend you to do your intensive research before you decide on the program. And to do this, I would recommend you to start the application process as early as possible. And if you are seriously considering MPH degree, you should research the program that works best for you and find the application deadlines. So you should begin the process, I would say in September. That's when I started my process, but the earlier the better. Most of my deadlines were due in December of that same year or January of the following year. And some, I think, were also due in February. And this is for the program that starts in September of the next year. So I started in 2020 September, and my program started in 2021 September. So about a year ahead. And more than often, I get asked by many students on how I did my research and how did I pick my school. And I would tell them that I started my research about 4 to 5 months before the application deadline. And I organized my research by schools and the programs on an Excel sheet. And this Excel sheet entailed everything about the school, what the program specifics were, the academic requirements, the deadlines, the tuition and the academic fees. This really helped me keep organized and kept me ahead of deadlines because it's so easy to miss deadlines. And majority of this information, you can find this on the websites as well. And in cases where you don't have enough information, do not hesitate to email the university and seek further information. I know I had to email the university because the website didn't have information on the credits and like the practicum opportunities. So I scheduled a meeting with the program manager before I accepted the admission offer. And one thing that Khatija really emphasized a lot on was the statement of interest. And I absolutely agree with her. This is I would say, one of the most difficult or the most challenging parts of the process. And give yourself ample of time to go through this because your statement of interest keeps evolving. I know I had multiple drafts over several weeks, and I gave myself enough time to allow time for it to evolve and become the best version, because that is where they take a glance at your statement of interest and that's where they pick you or you get shortlisted for further interview processes. So you may want to seek advice from an academic or professional mentor if you have one, or your close friends on this. You can ask them for feedback. You can also consult someone for advice on the grammar, the style, the flow of your essay. And the best thing I did was I asked someone in the field of public health to give me feedback on my statement of interest. And this really allowed me to look at small things from a very different perspective, which was important for my statement of interest. And it allowed me to use the keywords correctly. So, and one thing I would recommend is to definitely apply to multiple universities to keep your options open and try to reuse your statement of interest, but be cautious of what the requirement of each university is. Like, you can use the same base of the statement of interest, but you will have to tailor it to each university. And there are some exceptions in cases where there's not a statement of interest. They give you an essay question and then you answer that question. So really do your research. And especially for Western University, I had to write more than just the statement of interest. I had to write about my leadership and public health experiences. So best way to get yourself organized on all of these experiences is to have your resume done. So even before you know where you're applying, really start getting your resume together. And another important thing that I would emphasize is on your references. So each university, each professional program requires you to submit some references. So while doing your research simultaneously to writing your statement of interest, I would recommend you to identify how many references and the types of references you need from each school. Most schools require 2 to 3 reference letters. One is an academic and then 2 is a professional. But for Western, I needed 1 academic and 1 professional. So make sure that these academic professionals are able to give you a strong reference letter. And you can reach out to professors and for courses in which you've gotten a really good grade. And remember one thing, that these are really busy people. So if you are asking them for a favor to write you a reference letter, please give them enough time, because at the end of the day, they're doing you a favor and you need a strong statement of interest and reference letter. And one last advice that I will give you is let your passion guide your work and your experiences that you pursue. Do your research, talk to people. I can't emphasize this enough. Talk to people and understand the sector well. And in terms of current priorities, the types of roles available and the types of organizations that are offering positions both in Canada and overseas. And this will provide you with more insight on the types of skills you have to offer, the experiences that are required for this, and where you will be a good fit. So be sure to network and don't be afraid to go on informational interviews. Most often, people are happy to share their experiences and insights with you. So that's my spiel.
Thank you so much, Azra, for sharing all of your personal tips with us. We are going to move along. We are, hopefully you are all still with us, to Ms. Marian Salim, who completed her Bachelor of Education in Pakistan and is completed her Master's of Education in Canada and is currently working in British Columbia. Marian, if you could share your experiences with us briefly, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Khatija. Yali Madad, everybody. So I completed my MEd in TESOL, teaching English as a second language from University of British Columbia, and I'm currently working as grade 1 teacher in BC. So my application process was quite simple and easily managed, provided that I was prepared for what I was going into. I would just like to highlight the 3 important things that Khadija, Shaista, and Azra have mentioned already. So the first thing is that you should not be hesitating to email the staff, faculty, or any of the students who might currently be pursuing their graduate studies at the university that you're applying for. Make sure you try and connect with them. I sent like 15 emails and I received 3 responses, which were good enough to help me through the process. All the requirements for the application are available on the university's website. So make sure you read those thoroughly and, fulfill those. The second important thing that I learned through the process, and I wish I knew that earlier, I wish I had a similar kind of webinar before so that I was prepared to write a better essay, because my success is followed by a lot of failures. My first essay was worst, and I did not get into the program I wanted to get in, but I did not give up. And that's another thing to remember. If you fail the first time, that's okay. Take it as a learning point and move on from there. The second time I wrote my essay, it was still not good enough. So I was applying for a thesis-based program, whereas I was offered a place in a course-based program, which in the end turned out well, which I'm happy for. I'm happy with what I did and what I'm doing right now with my education. But only if I knew how to write a better essay, things could have been different for me. So while you're writing your essay, make sure you refer to the program's website. Look for the courses and the faculty who work there and what they have to offer. What is the research interest of the faculty that you most likely be working with? Mine was not a thesis-based program, yet I think if I would have connected my thoughts that I put down in my essay with what the university had to offer, my essay would have been stronger. So even if it is not a thesis-based program and you're not required to find a supervisor for yourself, make sure you go back to the program's website and look for what they have to offer and connect it with what you're interested in. The third thing that I want to bring you back on is references. So I was required to provide 3 reference letters. One of them, as the program website guided me, one of them had to be academic. So it's not, when you read the requirements, just don't read 3 references required. What kind of references required? There could be some guidelines around that as well. So when I was looking for my referees, I had to think, who would be the people who would take the responsibility to write and upload the letters on university's portal? Because you do not have as much control over that. You just provide the name and contact details of the references, and the university connects with them directly, and then they have to take the responsibility to draft and upload the letters. And to help my references a little bit, I actually drafted a few points for them so that it makes it easier for them to draft a letter for me. And it also makes sure that you're connecting with your references and they confirm you when they have uploaded your letters. And while I drafted some of the points for them to include into my references, I made sure that I was, helping them write about the points, which would, make my reference letters stronger too, which would highlight the skills and, knowledge that my program would like to see me bring to the institution. The last thing that I want to touch upon is, when you're selecting your program, also look for what you're going to do after you finish your program. So whatever career path you may choose, there are so many regulatory bodies in Canada that you have to work with. So once you finish your degree, you have to find out, does that degree allow you to work in the field, or are there other requirements? Because not every program may make you eligible to work in that field. So just be sure about the degrees, if they are accepted in the professional fields as well by the regulatory bodies or not. Those were my key takeaways from the process that I went into, and I wish you all good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maureen. That was a wonderful overview of your process and some good encouraging tips. I will pass it along without further ado to our speaker for the final portion of our session today, who will talk to you all a little bit about funding opportunities at the postgraduate level. Zinat Ali Sutar is the member for funding at the Aga Khan Education Board in Ottawa. He is a Canadian citizen and a practicing regulated Canadian immigration consultant. Has been in Canada for 10 years, came as a skilled worker with a Master's of Accounting degree and 12 years of teaching experience, completed his graduation in Canadian immigration practice and became a consultant. He is currently an active licensed member with ICCRC and has had many opportunities to guide and counsel international students, foreign workers, potential immigrants who are aspiring to move to Canada. So this allowed him to transition to a niche of professional skills and create these types of positive experiences for all of the clients that he's assisted to make Canada their new home. So Zinat, I will pass the floor along to you without further ado to speak about funding opportunities at the graduate level.
Yali Madad, everyone. Thank you, Khadija, for this wonderful introduction. Without wasting further time, let's talk about the funding opportunity. So once you have decided that Canada is the destination that you really want to go for, the next step would be to look at your budget and plan and look for the opportunities for funding. So in this 5-10 minutes that we are going to talk, we are going to cover the cost of studies and cost of living in Canada, funding opportunities, work integrated learning, which is also called as co-op, employment opportunity, some tips and tricks for parents and students how to manage their funding, and last we'll end up with some questions that you guys have posted on YouTube. So let's move on to the next slide. So as you guys know that Canada is divided into various provinces and territories, so therefore the cost of living is never same. It has been ranked by various studies, and it has been very commonly known that Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal are the one of the expensive cities across the world. And therefore, when you plan your universities, make sure you look at your budget, look at the cost of living as well, because this is where it will be easier for you to transition, manage your funds from your parents or yourself, and get the quality education that you're looking for. The best part is it's not only 1 or 2 provinces you can look for. There are various provinces that will provide you the opportunity to study what you want. So when you look at the cost of living in Canada as a student, it includes book, tuition fee, computers, cell phone, internet, housing, groceries, transportation, your insurance, which is of course covered in most of the institutes by the university or the institute you are a student of, and the activities and entertainment expenses, including clothing. So let's move on to the next slide. So in this chart, you can see that the cost is it varies significantly depending on the city or the province you pick. So it is very, very important that you go through the options that you guys have to select from the various available provinces or the institute. So it's very popular for our Smiley students to move to Toronto and Vancouver as one of the popular cities for us. But again, it is very, very important for you guys to look into your budget, funding options, and then decide which city will be best for you. Of course, it is very important to go in a city which is live, which gives you networking opportunity inside our community and outside. So this is very important, and we are going to share this slide with you. So make sure you spend some time on this. Next slide, please. So this is a comparative analysis that we have designed for you, just to make sure that you get an idea of what difference it makes when you have various cities as an option or various programs to select. So in this example, we have considered a student who wants to pursue Masters in Education in the upcoming session, that is 2022. He or she is a single candidate, not married, and he will be living alone in Canada. So we are trying to consider 3 institutes, different provinces. One is University of Windsor. The other one is Alberta. It's a University of Lethbridge in Alberta. That's where Khadija is, in Alberta. And the University of British Columbia. So if you compare this chart, let's look at the bottom line. So if you study the Masters of Education from Windsor, you're looking at approximately $33,000 expenses, investment in the first year. If you look at the second portion, which is University of Lethbridge, you're looking at $21,000 approximate. And if you go for the University of British Columbia, then you're looking at around $47,000. So there is a vast difference between, if you compare scenario 1 versus scenario 3, there is almost 1.5 to 2 times, I would say, in terms of cost of living and studies. So guys, this is a very, very important step for you as a student and for your parents to fund this education that you're looking for. So I would humbly request that go into the research about the programs. I'm not trying to say compromise on the quality of education. I'm not saying go for the cheap option. What I'm trying to say is look for the option which is feasible to manage your funding as well, because it is very, very important to have a successful transition from what you are right now into what you want to become as a qualified when you come to Canada. This is an important chart for you guys because you're based in Pakistan. So make sure you keep track of what's the currency exchange right now. Recently, we have been observing it's $1 is 138 Pakistan rupee. So therefore, it is very, very important that you monitor this, because that's how you'll come to know how much funds you require in your local currency, and that will help your parents to fund it. Next slide, please. Now, talking about the funding opportunity, there are various avenues to look for funding before you apply and when you are a student and after you complete your studies. So let's get on to it. Canada by far, excuse me, Canada by far is not considered to be a country which has many opportunities of scholarships. And even if there are scholarships that are provided, it is very limited in numbers, very, very competitive, and it is available to the postgraduate students in most cases. So of course, this program is for postgraduate students. So you will be eligible, but it is very limited, competitive. So guys, make sure you do your research on the institute where you are applying. So the best part is to start researching on the actual real scholarships that's available inside Canada for international students. So when you are doing a research, a quick tip from my side would be, don't just type on the Google scholarships in Canada, just type to be specific, search for scholarships available to international students, because you are outside Canada, because many scholarships are availed only to Canadians and permanent residents. So that there are various list of links that we have. The second best way to connect to your institute, because they are the one who have various programs for scholarships. So if you are in University of British Columbia, if you are applying there, look into their website, what are the available avenues for scholarships. And last but not the least, within our institute, we have AKDN, which provides international scholarship program. Mind you, these are very competitive because the audience is large. The best part is our country is included as an eligible country. So Pakistan, India, Bangladesh is amongst the country where a student can apply. So this is very important. You can connect to your local education board member to get more information on this international scholarship program. All right, so the next episode is internship and the co-op opportunity. So to give you an idea, internships and co-op is a part of work that is allowed during your studies. And in most postgraduate programs, you are allowed to complete that work. And in some cases, it is paid, some cases it is unpaid. So depending on the program, make sure if you get the opportunity, you should grab it, because this is where you will actually work with the companies or the organization who can become your potential employers. So don't miss out on this co-op opportunity if it is available to you. Important tip is, if you are having a co-op opportunity, you should have your co-op work permit. So make sure you apply for the co-op work permit as a part of the visa process, which will be covered up in the next webinar. Next slide, please. So once you are done with the studies, what next? So at the when you are in the last semester, make sure you start looking the employment opportunities. The best way is to get active on your LinkedIn profile, research various government websites. In Canada, you have various agencies who will help you to get to the job. They will help you to prepare the resume. Within institute, there is an employment support services. I highly recommend that you have to get connected. It has been repeatedly said by all the students who have shared their experience today, and even Khadija, that connect to the university, connect to the program coordinator. You have to spend time inside the university because there is ample opportunity and resources available. It is just a matter of time to get connected to the right person, but you have to take that step. So there are various resources that is available to you guys to explore on the employment opportunity. The last segment of this portion of funding is very important, is to create your budget. It is very important for you to transition. It will be a big step of your family and yourself, and it will be a step that is worthwhile. But after all, budget is very crucial. So make sure you cover up an extra buffer of whatever your estimates are, because you have to survive those 2 years of your studies as an international student. It is very expensive. So mind you, just take care of all your budgets, all your expenses, and start tracking. If we go on to the next slide, we are talking about how do we make sure that we comply with the financial requirement. So make sure you check what are the loan options available, what are the scholarships available to you in your home country. Make sure you start applying now for the next year. Like a couple of our students said today, that if you are applying for next year, like Azra was mentioning, stressing a lot, that for next year September program, you have to start this year. So don't be late on applications. Start researching, plan your options, and start searching for real funding options. Don't assume, don't think that we will arrange or we can arrange at the last moment. It is very important and crucial step. So make sure you are well ahead of the time in terms of preparing yourself. And last but not the least is you have to make sure that whatever scholarships are available, although they are limited, they are granted to the exceptional candidates, but make sure you take the use of it. If it is available, why not? So make sure you take the advantage of all the funding options that are available to you as an international student. Final tip for you is a common question that's been asked by most of the parents is staying inside campus more beneficial than off campus? Again, it's you who will take the call, but based on our experience being in Canada for many years and helping many students, it is very important that you take the call and decide the pros and cons of on campus versus off campus. And there, based on that, because on campus will be very expensive compared to off campus, and there are plus and minuses for both the sides. So please do a research, and you can connect your program coordinator again for the same. And thank you very much. That's pretty much from my side. We have provided various resources that's available for you to take out time, spend some time. There will be email contacts in each of the options. Make sure you use them. And I hope you can, transition from Pakistan to Canada. We all are excited. There are many students who are, making a big decision and transitioning from where they are versus what they want to be. So all the very best to you guys, and we are excited to host this program. Thank you to the organizers as well. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Natalie, for your excellent presentation on probably the most important topic, which is funding. So everyone, this is just a quick link to our career information portal, which is career.substack.com. We would upload a copy of the presentation that we had today on this website. You can please visit this website in a few days, and you will see a copy of the presentation, both of the previous week's webinar as well as this week's webinar. So there are many questions I have in front of me, and I just need to be aware of time. So I'll pick a few selected questions, which are very important, and I'll throw this to the presenters today, and then we can take it from there. So the first question I have is about consultants. So many students in Pakistan here seek help from consultants. And the question is, how do we check the accreditation status of these consultants? Sinath, if you can help with this.
It's a very crucial question because you are in a country where you want to make sure that you take a decision which is a well-informed decision. So to answer to the question, how do you know? So you can opt for any consultant who are regulated Canadian immigration consultant, and you can find their list on the official website. I can share the link later on, which can be shared with you guys, where you can find who is authorized by Canadian government to work on study permits and provide you the guidance. Now, when it comes to program related information, it is very important that when it comes to trust and how do you know which is the best option for you as a consultant, I would say go with the past records. Check with the students who have come through that agency, check their experience, because it is very, very important that you are in the right hands, because you rely on their decision, on their information and suggestions. So it is very crucial that number one, go to the website that is provided by Canadian government, whether they are regulated or not. Most people will say they are regulated, but the best way is you do your due diligence, check whether they are regulated or not. And second thing is check their track record. If they have helped many students, then of course you can connect with the students. We have some wonderful students today. I was excited to see the talent we have as a Smiley community. And you can connect with anyone. We are always welcoming to address any questions you guys have, but make sure, like one of our students said, if somebody is busy, then you have to repeatedly remind or wait for the they will reply. So you can always connect, but I would say do your research before you hand over your profile to them. Thank you.
I would also add that if you're looking for someone who's accredited or someone who is regulated, maybe look at someone or an organization that has a focus on education, migration, or education specifically, not just immigration. Also look for consultants who are not looking to charge you some type of fee right away from the get-go. Normally, regulated education agents that have, proper, affiliated contract with institutions will be able to, as Zinat Ali said, have that track record and prove it. And normally these larger education focused, as opposed to immigration focused only, right? Education focused agencies will have a list of accredited partners, so they'll list, top Canadian, British, American, Australian universities. And that if they're working with those partners, then these are agents, these are consultants that you can rely on, that are accredited, that are not fraudulent. So yeah, that's majorly important.
Great. So next question is, Khadija, you spoke about thesis-based masters and the coursework masters, and the question is, do employers have certain preference for any of these?
I would say it really depends on your professional field, and it really depends on your field of study. So for example, if you are, if your professional goals are to go into academia and to actually become, a leader in your field, and to be an instructor in that field, obviously you are going to be looking at doing more research intensive, more thesis-based intensive academic research. If you are looking to advance in a profession, for example, engineering, computing science, business, finance, any type of the health professions, you may not necessarily need to be doing a thesis base. A course base is probably a better fit for you at that juncture. And employers are going to look at your experience. They are going to look at your academic background. And they're also going to look at your research outputs. So again, it really, really depends on the field or the profession. Sometimes thesis-based may give you an advantage if you're going into those academic or research-intensive professional fields. Sometimes course-based will give you an advantage because it'll give you more opportunity to learn specific material that you will apply professionally. I'm not sure if Shaista, Marine, or Azra want to add to any of that, what the advantages or disadvantages are. Go ahead.
Yeah, just another thing that I would add is if you're looking for a program that is, like Khatija said, it's a professional program where you're looking just to get into the workforce, then a course-based program is okay. And if you're also looking for a program, say you want to get into, I'll use an example. So a student wants to get into medicine, but their undergrad grades are not good. So they'll do a course-based master's to boost their GPA. So that's another opportunity for you. But again, not all universities look at your master's grades for medicine. So it's very subjective, but if you're looking to enter from workforce, then course-based is great. But if you want to do research, then thesis is great. That's my take on it.
Great. Shaista, I would ask the next question from you. I know you went to Canada with the family, and there are many candidates who consider going for their graduate studies with the family. So is it a conducive decision? Is it a decision to move with the family, or what is the cost like for children's education there? Are they free? Can the spouse work in Canada when they go with their spouse for education? How does it work? If you can share a few thoughts.
Well, Salman, I think that it depends on your personal situation, because one has to decide whether they want to move alone or with the family. Because of course, when you move with the family, the expenses will get double, in fact, triple. So because you have to see everything in perspective of your family, your children education, daycares, and things like that. So for me, when I came here, it was a COVID time. Very, initially it was a miserable time for me because I was struggling with this thing. And this is something which is very unpredictable. Nobody think of it, right? So when I came here, so the COVID started and we were struggling with the employment thing and other things. But for me, it was fortunate because with the university, with the supervisor, definitely you get some chance to work as a research assistant or teaching assistantship. So that was, suffice for my situation. For the kid, obviously the education system it depends again that what education system you would like to opt for. There are multiple sectors like public education, public sector, or you want to go for the Cogito program. Different programs are there. So for the public sector, obviously you don't need to pay. The education is like you can just enroll your kid in the public program. However, in regards to daycare, yes, it is expensive. It costs around like $1,200 to $1,400 per month. And obviously you have to see the timings of your work and study and with your kids' schooling and everything. So yeah, this was the challenge. So I would say that it all depends on personal situation and your budget, of course. When you plan for your studies, you don't only have to plan for yourself, you have to plan for your family as well. So when you plan your budget, you need to jot down those things that apart from tuition fees, what other things you would need to consider, like work, like your recreation, as Zeenat Ali said, that recreation thing, your daycare expenses, your cost of living, your rental, you want to rent your house inside the campus or outside the campus. So these are the things we're challenging. Yeah, so it all depends on personal situation.
I would like to add, especially for a lot of postgraduate students who have dependents with them, who have a husband or a wife with them, or who may have a child or children with them. For the most part, K-12 education is provincially regulated, as well as advanced education. All of these are regulated through the Ministry of Education or advanced education from that province. And more often than not, public education in Canada is very, very high quality and is free. And there are a lot of different opportunities for students to be enrolled in different types of programs. For example, in public school, you can enroll your student in an IB program or in an advanced placement, or in a public school, you can enroll them in French immersion if you want them to be doing that, or maybe a bilingual, different bilingual program. Also, as a student, as a graduate student on a study permit, more often than not, you can apply for a student visa for your child dependent to attend public school, as well as a spousal work permit, which would be attached to your study permit, which would allow your spouse to be able to seek employment at whatever level. And I don't know, Zinat Ali, if you want to elaborate on that a little.
To wrap it up, all the points in the discussion is super valid. The perspective that is very important for the candidates outside Canada, whether they should apply together. This is the first question they need to get convinced and be confident about. There is no guarantee as such that application together is better than applying alone. Yeah. This is a crucial decision. Yeah. The second important point that from my experience is, you have to convince the visa officer that your study permit is a temporary resident visa. You are intending to go back. So as a family, it is very important for you to understand and take a decision that if you apply together, are you going to convince the officer that you want to come back? Or only if the student is applying and then later on you can join, will that make your case very strong? So this is a very, very crucial decision. It is always important, and I would say preferred that a family stays together and transitions together. Of course, Shaistas, all the challenges are very real, but I would say it comes with the opportunity where a husband gets a job. There are various benefits. Government is trying for a subsidy on childcare. So it's very important that a family comes together. There's nothing like it, but always calculate the risk. If you're applying together, in my opinion, you're giving an officer an impression that you are coming with a hidden agenda of transitioning into Canada forever. So that is one crucial decision, I would say, as a family, apart from all the important points that they have covered.
Even if that's something that you are intending on doing, is applying for your permanent residence or making Canada your permanent home, the visa officer, more often than not, they're going to look at ties to home country. And that is a significant, factor in determining whether or not they would, accept a visa or approve a visa or a study permit, is ties to home country. Another thing is that the financial capacity needs to really, really be really well outlined. So you need to demonstrate that you have, at least at minimum, the amount of funding available to cover your tuition, your academic non-instructional fees, and your living expenses for you and your dependents for at least the first year. So as long as that's clearly demonstrated, that's going to be a huge advantage as well.
Great. So the next question has probably two parts to it. One is, given that many people who apply for graduate studies in Canada consider applying for the work permit as well, are there any top fields for which the scope or the opportunities for work permit is higher? That's sort of first part of the question. And second, are there any fields where the chances of scholarships are also higher? And so that's the question that we have right now. Khadija, you want to pick the first part and then maybe Zinat the second part?
Yeah, so, a lot of this information is available on the EduCanada website, educanada.ca, as well as the Canadian Immigration website. So CIC is a really great point to start because they have done quite a few labor market value opinions to sort of give skilled laborers or, potential migrants, economic class migrants, ideas about, what are the professional, what are the professional barriers? What are the professional advantages? What are certain fields where in Canada there are labor shortages or where they're looking for, different types of gaps to fill in? And that information usually is is available on those government websites because they will do those labor market analyses. Another thing to look at is, again, at the postgraduate level, if you are doing a professional or course-based master's, a lot of your funding is going to be scholarship based, or, you may have some type of responsibility to undertake undergraduate teaching, and then you would be given a teaching assistantship or a salary through your department or through your faculty. However, it's not easy to determine whether or not there would be one specific profession or one specific, field necessarily that will be an advantage, or where you'll be able to find that more funding. The most important thing, again, is, and these three students highlighted that, is that your personal passion, your personal skill set will determine your success in that area. And as long as you are, creating a niche set of skills, which is what you're doing at the postgraduate level anyway, then you are able to market yourself as having those skills. And that's how you would create advantages, for example, in the professional field. So, it's not a very direct answer. It's not really easy to determine, oh yeah, for sure, this is hot right now, because a lot of that fluctuates based on the economy and based on global economic, considerations as well. So, my advice would be, as long as you are certain and clear about your area of professional, passion, or your area of interest, if you are committed to that, then you will definitely be able to create a niche set of skills and be able to, specifically hone your employment and funding opportunities based on that, based on your research, based on your skills.
Good. Just one final question now, Mehreen, to you. You went through the whole process of research, application, and visa, and many a time students are not clear about the timelines itself. So I want to put you in a situation where if somebody is targeting to start from September of 2023, what should the timelines look like for that person from planning to application to visa process?
I'd say start now. And I'd say maybe we're late already, because to tell you the truth, it took me 3 years to get here. 3 years. And as I said earlier, before I could succeed in what I'm doing, I experienced too many failures at so many levels. My applications were rejected. My visa application was rejected. I got scholarship from Aga Khan Foundation, thankfully, but I was put on a wait list there as well. So there were so many, roadblocks before I could get to where I am. But Alhamdulillah, I'm happy with where I am. And eventually I got where I needed to be. So start as early as you can. And if it doesn't work out the first time, keep going. You will get here if you're meant to be here, and you will get here at the right time, at the right place. Just keep going. Yeah, and just as Azra and Shaista mentioned, like if you're due for, like if you want to start in September 2023, that would mean you would get your first conditional offer in April 2023. That means your application deadline is somewhere in the fourth quarter of 2022. So that means you should start right away. Yeah.
Excellent. Everyone, thank you so much for being with us today. I think what you have shared from your experiences is going to be extremely valuable for students in Pakistan. And again, on behalf of the AKEB in Pakistan, I'm extremely grateful to you. This concludes our second webinar, and we will come back with the third webinar next Saturday at 8 p.m. Pakistan time, where we will talk more about opportunities after you complete your education. And in case you want to get some work experience in Canada, what are some opportunities, challenges, and realities that you need to know when you consider that. So once again, thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. One small advice, don't miss the next webinar because that is going to be focused on immigration. So do come back again. Thank you so much, everyone. It was exciting to see you.
Please share the link for it. I'm very much interested.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yali Madad. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Khadija. Bye, Azra. Bye, Mehreen and Shaista. Take care. Bye.
So much. Bye.